here is the story of my downfall. I am writing this because I have nowhere else to turn. My friends have blocked me. My family will barely look at me. And my husband? Well, he is the reason I am sitting in this cold, rented room, typing on a laptop that is 5 years old because I had to pawn my MacBook to pay rent. I am not asking for sympathy. I know the internet hates women like me. I just need to get this out of my head before it explodes. I need someone, anyone, to hear my side of the story. Because it wasn't supposed to end like this. It was supposed to be a wake-up call for him. It was supposed to make our marriage exciting again. My name is Camilla. I am 29 years old. And I destroyed my life because I was bored. It was our 5th anniversary. 5 years of stability. 5 years of waking up next to the same man, in the same house, living the same predictable life. His name is Silas. He is 34. He isn't loud. He isn't flashy. He restores antique timepieces for a living. He spends his days hunched over a workbench, magnifying glass in his eye, obsessing over gears and springs that are smaller than a grain of sand. He brings that same energy to our marriage, precise, careful, quiet. He took me to the Gilded Lily. It is the kind of restaurant where the menu doesn't have prices, and the waiters wear tuxedos better than most grooms. Silas was wearing his navy suit. He looked handsome, I guess, in that safe, dependable way. He was holding my hand across the table, talking about refinancing the mortgage to buy a summer cottage by the lake. A cottage. By the lake. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted fire. I wanted passion. I wanted to feel like I was alive, not just existing in a well-decorated waiting room for death. While Silas droned on about interest rates, my left hand was under the table, clutching my phone. It vibrated. A message from Dante. Dante was everything Silas wasn't. He was 26, a drummer in a band that hadn't quite made it yet. He smelled like cigarettes and cheap cologne and danger. We had met at a coffee shop 3 months ago. He made me feel like the main character in a movie. Dante, I'm thinking about your legs. I wish you were here. This bed is too big without you. A thrill shot through me. It was electric. This was what I needed. The secret, the risk. I typed back, my thumb flying across the screen, hidden by the tablecloth. Camilla. Stuck at the anniversary dinner. He is talking about mortgages. Save me. Silas squeezed my right hand. I looked up, plastering on a fake smile. Are you listening, Camilla? He asked softly. Of course, darling. I lied. The lake house sounds are sensible. He smiled. A genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. It almost made me feel guilty. Almost. I ordered us the vintage champagne, he said. The one you liked from our honeymoon. He was so thoughtful. It was exhausting. My phone buzzed again. I couldn't help it. I needed to see. I glanced down. Dante had sent a photo. It wasn't explicit, but it was intimate. Just him, shirtless, messy hair, looking at the camera with those hungry eyes. The caption read, "Forget the champagne. Come taste me." I let out a small, breathy laugh. And that was when it happened. I hadn't realized Silas had let go of my hand. I hadn't realized he had leaned forward to pour water into my glass. His eyes were not on the water jug. They were directed downward, under the table. Specifically, at the bright screen of my phone resting on my knee. The notification was still there. The photo was still there. Time stopped. I expected him to yell. I expected him to snatch the phone. I expected him to cause a scene that would have the entire restaurant staring. That's what men do in movies, right? They explode. They fight for you. But Silas didn't explode. He froze. Just for a second. Like a watch that had missed a tick. Then, he slowly set the water jug down. The glass didn't even clink. He sat back in his chair. The warmth drained from his face instantly. It wasn't anger I saw. It was something worse. It was a shutter coming down. The light behind his eyes just went out. Silas? I whispered. My heart hammered against my ribs. It's not what you think. It's just a stupid friend. He didn't speak. He didn't even look at me. He raised his hand and signaled the waiter. Check, please, he said. His voice was level, calm, terrifyingly normal. Silas, stop, I hissed, leaning in. Don't do this here. Let me explain. He ignored me. He took out his black leather wallet. He placed a credit card on the tray. He signed the receipt. He added a generous tip. Then, he stood up. "Silas," I said, a little louder this time. People were starting to look. He looked at me then. But it was like he was looking at a stranger. Or a piece of furniture. "Are you coming?" he asked. That was it. No screaming, no crying, just, "Are you coming?" I grabbed my purse and followed him out, my face burning. I thought he was in shock. I thought he was bottling it up. I thought I could fix this in the car. I thought I could cry a little, blame it on his neglect, and he would apologize for working too much. I was so wrong. The drive home was silent. Not a peaceful silence. It was a heavy, suffocating silence that pressed against my eardrums. When we got home, I tried to talk. "Silas, please. You have to listen. I was feeling lonely. You're always working on those clocks. I just needed some attention." He walked past me in the hallway as if I were a ghost. He went into the bedroom, took off his suit, folded his trousers along the crease, and hung them up. He put on his pajamas. He brushed his teeth. He got into bed and turned off his lamp. "Silas," I screamed, standing at the foot of the bed. "Say something. Yell at me. Do something." He turned his back to me and pulled the duvet up to his shoulder. That was the beginning of the silence. For the next week, I lived in a house with a statue. He made coffee in the morning, but only one cup. He made dinner in the evening, but only one plate. He did his laundry, leaving my clothes in the hamper. It was maddening. It was psychological warfare. I tried everything. I cried. I threw a vase against the wall. He just swept up the shards without a word and went back to his workshop. I started to feel like the victim. How could he be so cruel? How could he just switch off his love like that? It proved I was right, didn't it? He was cold. He was a robot. So, I ran to Dante. I went to Dante's basement apartment. It was messy. There were pizza boxes on the floor, but he touched me. He listened to me complain. "He's a psycho, babe," Dante said, strumming his guitar while I paced his room. "That's emotional abuse. The silent treatment? That's toxic. You don't deserve that." "I know," I said, drinking cheap wine from a plastic cup. "He's trying to punish me. But it won't work. I'm not going to beg." "Exactly," Dante smirked. "Leave him. You have me. We have passion. That guy probably has dust in his veins." I felt validated. I felt righteous. But then I would go home. And the house would be dark. One night, I came home late, smelling of Dante's cigarettes. I walked past Silas's workshop. The door was cracked open. He was sitting there, illuminated by the harsh light of his desk lamp. He was holding the blueprint for the lake house, the one he had talked about at dinner. He wasn't crying. His face was stone. He took a pair of scissors, and very slowly, very precisely, he cut the blueprint into strips. Snip, snip, snip. He didn't tear it in a rage. He deconstructed it, just like he took apart his watches. He dropped the strips into the trash can. Then he turned off the light and walked past me to the bedroom. I shivered. For the first time, I felt a seed of fear in my stomach. This wasn't a tantrum. This was an erasure. 2 weeks of silence. I was losing my mind. I needed a reaction. Any reaction. Anger is better than indifference, isn't it? Anger means they still care. So I decided to force his hand. It was my friend Nina's birthday party. It was a rooftop gathering. All our mutual friends would be there. Silas was obligated to go. He cared about appearances. I invited Dante. I told myself I was just inviting a friend. But I knew what I was doing. I wanted Silas to see him. I wanted Silas to see the man who gave me what he couldn't. I wanted to see Silas crack. We arrived at the party. Silas was polite, greeting everyone, holding a drink, playing the role of the perfect husband. He still hadn't spoken a word to me directly. Then, Dante walked in. He was wearing a leather jacket and ripped jeans. He stood out among the suits and cocktail dresses. I walked over to him immediately. I touched his arm. I laughed too loudly at his jokes. I saw my friends exchanging glances. Nina looked horrified. I dragged Dante over to where Silas was standing. "Silas," I said, my voice challenging. "I want you to meet Dante. He's a musician." The circle of people around us went quiet. Everyone knew, or they suspected. Dante smirked, extending a hand. He looked arrogant. "Hey man, heard a lot about you." This was it. The moment. Silas would punch him. or he would grab my arm and drag me out. Silas looked at Dante's hand. He didn't take it. He took a sip of his whiskey. He looked Dante up and down, analyzing him like a cheap watch with a broken mechanism. "A musician," Silas said. It was the first time I had heard his voice in 14 days. It was smooth, deep, and utterly bored. "That explains the smell." Dante blinked, his smirk faltering. "Excuse me?" "The desperation," Silas continued, his voice loud enough for the group to hear, but still conversational. "It hangs off you like that cheap leather. Tell me, do you actually play music, or do you just find women with low self-esteem to pay for your drinks?" The silence on the rooftop was deafening. "Hey!" Dante stepped forward, trying to look tough. Silas didn't flinch. He smiled. A cold, shark-like smile. "Camilla has always had a weakness for broken things," Silas said, looking right at Dante, but talking about me. "She thinks she can fix them. But some things aren't antique, they're just junk." He turned his back on us. He walked over to the bar and ordered another drink. I stood there, frozen. My friends weren't looking at Silas like he was the villain. They were looking at me. They were looking at Dante. And they looked embarrassed. Dante looked small. In front of Silas's composed success, Dante looked like exactly what he was, a boy playing dress-up. I grabbed Dante's hand. "Let's go," I whispered. "No," Dante pulled away. "Your husband is a jerk. We are leaving," I hissed. As we walked out, I looked back. Silas was laughing at something Nina said. He looked relaxed. He looked free. And I felt a knot of dread tighten in my chest. He wasn't fighting for me. He was laughing at me. 3 days after the party, Silas packed a bag. "Business trip," was all the note on the counter said. "Zurich. 1 week." He didn't say goodbye. He just left. I should have been worried, but honestly, I felt relieved. The pressure was gone. The judgment was gone. "Come over," I texted Dante. "He's gone for a week. We have the house to ourselves." For the first 3 days, it was fun. We drank Silas's expensive wine, we ate takeout in bed, we played loud music. I felt like a teenager again. I felt like I had won. "See?" I told Dante, swirling a glass of Bordeaux. "He's boring. He leaves, and we live." But on the 4th day, things started to get weird. I went to look for my passport. I was thinking maybe Dante and I could go on a trip. It wasn't in the safe. I frowned. I looked for my jewelry box. The vintage pearls my grandmother gave me. The diamond earrings Silas bought me for our 3rd anniversary. Gone. Panic started to prickle at my skin. I checked the closet. Silas's clothes were there. But his high-end watches? The collection he kept in the hidden safe behind the painting? Empty. "Dante," I called out. "Have you seen?" "Never mind." I tried to log into our joint bank account to order more food. Access denied. Contact your branch. I tried the credit card. Declined. My stomach dropped. I called the bank. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the teller said. "The primary account holder has frozen these assets due to suspicious activity. You'll need his authorization to unlock them." I hung up. My hands were shaking. "What's wrong?" Dante asked. He was eating leftover pizza on the white sofa. A drop of grease fell onto the fabric. He froze the accounts," I whispered. "So?" Dante shrugged. "Use your own money." "I don't have my own money, Dante," I snapped. "I work part-time at a gallery. Silas pays for everything. The mortgage, the cars, the bills." Dante's face changed. The charm evaporated. "Wait, so you're broke right now?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Mom," I answered, my voice trembling. "Silas locked the accounts. I don't know what." "Shut up." My mother's voice was ice cold. I had never heard her sound like that. "Don't you dare play the victim with me, Camilla." "What?" "Silas emailed us," she said. "He emailed everyone. Your father, me, his parents, your brother." "Emailed you what?" "The pictures, Camilla. The texts. The video from the security camera in your living room. The one you apparently forgot existed." The blood drained from my face. The living room, where Dante and I had been, on the sofa. "Mom, please." "He didn't say a word in the email," she continued. "Just the files. And a legal notice. How could you? He gave you everything. He worshipped the ground you walked on. And you brought that greaseball into his home?" It's not like that. Don't call us, she said. Your father is ashamed to show his face at the club. Fix this, Camilla, or don't come home. The line went dead. I looked at Dante. He was wiping his hands on his jeans. He looked uncomfortable. He looked like he wanted to leave. What happened? He asked. He knows, I whispered. He told everyone. My family knows. Dante stood up. Whoa, that's heavy. Look, babe, I should probably go. I have practice. Practice? Dante, my life is falling apart. Stay here. I can't get involved in a legal mess, Camilla, he said, backing away. I have a reputation. A reputation? I laughed hysterically. You're a drummer in a dive bar band. Whatever, he grabbed his jacket. Call me when things cool down. He walked out. He left me alone in the big, dark house. And that's when I realized. Silas hadn't gone to Zurich for business. He had gone to clear the board. He wasn't playing a game. He was ending it. Silas came back 2 days early. I was sitting on the floor of the living room. I hadn't showered. I had been eating cereal because there was no food left and no money to buy any. I heard the key in the lock. I scrambled up. I tried to smooth my hair. I prepared my speech. I would cry. I would tell him Dante meant nothing. I would tell him I was lonely and stupid, and I would spend the rest of my life making it up to him. The door opened. Silas walked in. But he wasn't alone. A woman in a sharp gray suit followed him. And behind her, 2 large men in uniforms that said, City Movers. Silas looked fresh, rested. He was wearing a cashmere coat. He looked at me with that same impassive expression. Silas, I choked out, stepping forward. Baby, please. Let me explain. I was so stupid. Dante is gone. I kicked him out. It's just us. Silas didn't stop walking. He went to the kitchen island and poured himself a glass of water. The woman in the suit stepped in front of me. Mrs. Thorne, she said. I am Mr. Thorne's attorney. Please do not approach my client. Attorney? I looked at Silas. Silas, stop this. Talk to me. Silas turned around. He leaned against the counter. He looked at the movers. Start with the guest room, he told them. Pack everything that belongs to her. Leave the furniture. No, I screamed. You can't kick me out. This is my house too. Actually, the lawyer said calmly, opening a file. The house was purchased by Mr. Thorne 3 years prior to the marriage. Your name is not on the deed. There is a prenuptial agreement, which you signed, stating that in the event of infidelity proven by substantial evidence, you waive rights to spousal support and shared property. I stared at her. The prenup. I had forgotten. I signed it because I thought we were in love. I thought it was just a formality for his business. Silas, I whispered. You can't do this. I have nowhere to go. I have no money. Silas finally looked at me. His eyes were clear. There was no hate, just absence. The joint account has been closed, he said. His voice was calm, factual. I have transferred $5,000 into your personal account. That should cover a deposit on an apartment and a month of expenses. Consider it a parting gift. 5,000? I felt dizzy. Silas, I can't live on that. I'm your wife. You ceased to be my wife the moment you invited him into my bed, Silas said. You are just a squatter now. But I love you. I sobbed, falling to my knees. It was pathetic. I knew it was pathetic. But I was terrified. Please, Silas. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, anything. Silas walked over to me. For a second, I thought he was going to help me up. He crouched down. He looked into my eyes. Do you know why I didn't yell? He asked softly. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. Because yelling is for people who care, he said. Yelling implies that there is something worth saving. When I saw that message, I didn't feel angry, Camilla. I felt nothing. I realized I had been married to a stranger, and I don't waste energy on strangers. He stood up. You have 1 hour to pack your personal effects. The movers will assist. If you are not gone by noon, the police will be called for trespassing. He walked past me, into his workshop, and closed the door. I heard the lock click. I sat there while the movers packed my life into cardboard boxes. They were efficient, brutal. They stripped the house of every trace of me. When I walked out the front door, dragging my suitcase, I looked back. I hoped to see him watching from the window. I hoped to see a flicker of regret. The blinds were drawn. The house was silent. That was 1 year ago. I live in a studio apartment above a laundromat now. It smells like detergent and damp drywall. I work as a receptionist at a dental clinic. The pay is terrible. My boss is rude. I spend my days answering phones and being yelled at by people who hate going to the dentist. My friends never unblocked me. It turns out people like to be around success. They liked the version of me that threw parties and bought rounds of drinks. They don't like the version of me that asks to borrow rent money. Dante? I saw him once. He was at a bar with another girl. She looked young. She looked expensive. He saw me, made eye contact, and then looked away like he didn't know me. And Silas? I saw him yesterday. I was walking to the bus stop in the rain. A black Audi pulled up to the curb a few feet away. I stopped. I knew that car. Silas got out. He looked incredible. He had grown a beard. He looked stronger. He was wearing a coat that probably cost more than my entire year's salary. He wasn't alone. He walked around the car and opened the passenger door. A woman stepped out. She wasn't a model. She wasn't flashy. She had kind eyes and a soft smile. She was holding a baby carrier. My heart stopped. Silas took the carrier from her. He looked down at the baby, and the expression on his face, it was the look he used to give me. But deeper, richer. He laughed at something the woman said. He put his hand on the small of her back to guide her out of the rain, into a restaurant. He looked happy. Not the quiet, contented happiness I had mistaken for boredom, but a vibrant, alive happiness. He didn't see me. I was just a soaking wet woman standing in the background of his new life. I wanted to run over to him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that I was sorry, that I missed him, that I was miserable. But I stayed frozen. I realized then that his punishment wasn't the divorce. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the humiliation. The punishment was this. The punishment was knowing that he was capable of that kind of love, that kind of joy, and that I was the one who had killed it. He hadn't been boring. He had been peaceful. And I had been too chaotic to understand the difference. I watched them disappear into the warm, golden light of the restaurant. I turned around and walked back to the bus stop. The rain was cold. My shoes were leaking. The silence in my apartment tonight will be deafening. And for the first time, I know that it is exactly what I deserve.